Adventure workshops and more? Yes, please. Would you like to travel the world on a quilty adventure vicariously through friends? I have some wonderful humans on the podcast. Today, it's Jenni and Kay. Hello and welcome to the Quilter on Fire podcast. I'm Brandy Maslowski, a former firefighter turned quilt professional. As a quilt teacher, speaker, and judge, I travel the globe to bring quilters more joy and less overwhelm. Not too long ago, the quilty life I now lead was just a dream. After many lessons and a lot of hard work, I've transitioned from juggling a day job and a quilting business on the side to becoming a full-time quiltpreneur. I started the Quilter on Fire podcast to create a vibrant community of quilters, artists, and makers. Each episode brings you inspiring stories, insights, and the pure joy of guests from all over the world. If their stories uplift you and spark joy, you're in the right place. Let's dive in and ignite that creative fire within you. Jenni Smith and Kay Walsh are thriving creative quilters, each to their own, but put them together and some kind of magic happens. I think it's called friendship. And when you bring that to an event, a workshop, or any kind of experience, it becomes fun for everyone. Jenni and Kay are the hosts for Quiltfolk Magazine's adventure workshops, delivering virtual quilting experiences that combine travel, storytelling, and in-depth sewing techniques. Based in Yorkshire, England, these two are experienced quilting teachers known for their work with Liberty of London and for creating projects that promote creativity and wellness. So let's explore the stories of Jenni Smith and Kay Walsh. Jenni and Kay, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Yeah, that was a very lovely introduction.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. I see you at all of the shows, especially the UK show. And I always wish that I could just come up and spend an hour with you. But you're always surrounded by this wonderful, aura of friends just wanting to have a piece of your joy. So I like to start the podcast by taking a look back at where you both got started. So we'll do it one at a time. So when do you first remember putting stitch to fabric? Kay, let's put you on the spot. Let's start with you.
Oh gosh, I think at primary school, I do have, and in fact, my mum still has one of the things that I made, which was a little bit like a cross stitch. You know, we have that stuff where it's got the holes in it, and you put some beautiful embroidery thread in it. And I do remember really enjoying that. Though I didn't do a lot of sewing after that. I think by the time I got to high school, we weren't taught very much in the UK at that time, in the kind of 80s. It wasn't on the curriculum at all, was it? Kind of stitching and stuff. So didn't do a lot. And then I have a terrible memory, actually, of being in high school, being allowed to go on a sewing machine and breaking a needle, and then just thinking, this is not for me. I don't know what I'm doing here. And they didn't help you at all. So kind of coming away from that really until I got much later into, probably into my 30s, and then having children and wanting to then make things. So I only got back into it quite late then, really, of then learning how to make, furnishings for your home and trying to do some clothes. And then really for me, the quilting only properly got started after I met Jenni.
Yeah. And I remember back in my middle school years having sort of horrifying moments trying to figure things out. So I think I made, remember stirrup pants? I made stirrup pants, and I called it the banana suit, but my stirrups were so high that they were almost mid-shin. You almost had to wear leg warmers to cover it up. But Jenni, how did your stitching begin?
Well, I definitely grew up in a house where there was lots of sewing going on, because my grandpa made trailer tents and caravans, and my mum and my nan helped make the upholstery. So it was a bit like an industry going on in my home. But for myself, a little bit at school, and then definitely kind of from being 10, 11 years old, 12, going into the dressing up box, picking out clothes with my friend Laura, who I still sew with, and customizing outfits. So like raw edge applique, when I look at it now critically, or, chopping things off and making sleeves and adding in. So mainly garments.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I wanted to have my own style, I think. And from then on, I made clothes for sure. And just taught myself a little bit, and having children and then wanting to make clothes for them. And quilting was when I went to Canada for a year. So 20 years ago, my husband was on like a medical sabbatical there, and I wasn't working, and walked into a quilt shop and was slightly overwhelmed and excited and full of whatever this is, I need to be doing it, I think. And the ladies in the class couldn't believe that I was English and I didn't do quilting. I think they thought it's what everybody did here, you know. So they taught me, and I haven't stopped since, basically.
Oh, that's so exciting that you got your start in Canada. So what area of Canada did you live in?
Well, we were in Toronto, and we were living in the beach area. So it was called the Quilters Garden. And I think when I've done talk to guilds and things since, it doesn't exist anymore, although perhaps some of the staff are still around. But it was, 10-minute walk really from where we were living that year. And it was a really beautiful shop with a little classroom at the back, but just bolts and bolts of Kay facet fabric. I remember when I first walked, I was like, wow, what's all of this?
Oh, what a nice beginning. Well, let's stay with you for a second, Jenny. So were there certain people in your life, you mentioned your grandparents, that had a creative impact on you in your youth?
Yeah, I think probably everyone in my family, really, in that it was definitely the norm to be painting or drawing or getting FIMO and, any kind of craft. Yeah, I would do it. And I've got two sisters and a brother. So I just feel like it was a busy household like that. And my grandpa, I lived with my parents and my grandparents. So someone was always like making costumes for a show or painting the ceiling of our dining room, like the panels on it, or building the kitchen, or it was, hugely creative. And that was always very valued. Like no perfectionism, I don't think at all, but just having an idea and doing it.
Yeah. And Kay, how about you? Any people in your life early on that really boosted your creativity?
It definitely wasn't as much of a thing, although my mum was, I remember going out to night classes to do dressmaking herself and being aware of that. And equally, me and my siblings were involved a lot in the local theatre group. So she used to make our costumes. And so I knew she could sew. And we had my grandma's treadle machine in the house as well, which I used to just sit and play with the foot pedal, even though I didn't know what it was doing, just felt nice. And I suppose we're all kind of slightly arty, and my mum would knit, and I can knit a bit, and I've learned how to crochet as well as an adult. I think I've always been interested in those kind of things, even though I don't think really there was anyone like, apart from seeing people knitting, and both my grandmas knitted. My mum would occasionally, but she was often too busy with work and stuff. She, we laugh about it now. She definitely started numerous cardigans, or like, in fact, my ballet cardigan that she started eventually made its way finished to my daughter when she did ballet lessons, because I never got it. It never got finished in that time. So little bits, but not so much kind of at that time growing up.
Well, let's make our way into your first quilt. So Kay, what's your recollection of the first time you made a quilt?
The first time I really properly made a quilt, I tried to make a bad one for my goddaughter with another friend of mine when we started to learn to sew when our children were little. And then after I met Jenny, and we met at a tap dancing class, however many years ago, 18 or so years, I can't remember. And this was after Jenny had been to Canada. So she came back evangelical about wanting to make anyone she ever met learn how to quilt. So, she was grabbing people in the playground, weren't you? And then people at tap dancing class, I was like, we got chatting, talked a bit about sewing. I was like, I'm trying to learn how to sew a bit. I'll teach her how to quilt. So we did that, and a group of us got together. So I think one of my first proper quilt I made for my daughter, and it had all the fabrics were by a UK designer who's still around now, called Anila Hui, and I absolutely adored those fabrics, and just did a really simple kind of brick quilt that I kind of had seen slightly and worked out how to do it. And I think that's like my first
And then I made you drink a glass of wine to have the confidence to pretty much quilt.
That's right.
So that was quite a baptism of fire.
It was, because I hadn't quilted anything before. And she's like, "You'll be all right. Just relax, have a glass of wine."
That might be, I wonder if that would be allowed in a workshop. It would be a good tactic for the students.
No,
okay, it's wine time. Okay, so Jenny, tell us about your first quilt.
Well, mine was at the Quilters Garden classroom at the back in Canada. And because my son at the time was 1 year old, I wanted to make something for him. So I've still got the magazine, kind of followed some sampler blocks. Like there were definitely pinwheels and 9 patches in there. And then we say applique, people always laugh at us, but applique we say in Yorkshire. I did applique like his initials. There was Elmo on there. I did like a duck from his favourite book. Like looking back, I was quite dedicated to the cause, but I obviously had a lot of time on my hands. And I think in my head, I remember like Pottery Barn and thinking I was going to make this really coordinated quilt for my baby. And the people in the shop were like, but children like bright colours. This quilt isn't for you, it's for your child. So it's really colourful. And what was sweet, I got the idea from the magazine as well. I quilted, I painted and stamped his hands and feet, and I used the templates of those for hand quilting around the border of the quilt, which is really lovely, because I guess when I look back at it now, like that's how tiny his hands were at the time. So applique, hand quilting, I threw myself in. There was no way I was probably going to make a quilt that looked like what I was supposed to be making. But I loved it enough to have never stopped since, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's really a heartwarming story for your first quilt. And we'll continue with you, Jenny. Did you let's talk about education and career path. Did you make a transition from something else before quilting?
Yeah, like before I'd gone to Canada, I worked, I studied art history and Italian at university, and then I went into doing research in television and worked my way up to being an assistant producer and working in productions. And so by the time it came to Canada, it was like I just had decided that Paul would work, and I just wanted to obviously have time with my son and just soak up that year. So that was where I was at that point. And then from then on, I think because I loved rediscovering that creativity, I guess I'd always had as a child, but doing more practical things. I think when I came back, I had 2 more children and worked intermittently and still did some TV production, but I was really drawn to sewing and all the people in the community that brought into my life. And I think there was no going back then. Once that had started, I think I knew that's where I wanted to be.
Yeah. And how about your story, Kay? How did it go?
So I studied English language, linguistics and phonetics at university, so kind of nothing to do with anything, and fell into various jobs. I ended up doing kind of marketing and administration roles, really, and then moved back from London back up to the north of England when I was about to have my daughter, my first child. So again, I chose not to work at that point, was just bringing up the kids, and then so I hadn't really probably worked for quite a while, only bits and pieces. And then when I met Jenny, and she'd started to do a little bit of teaching in our local town, and after a while she kind of said to me, I'm thinking of doing this more seriously and getting a studio space and running some classes and stuff. Do you want to come to work with me? And I was like, yeah, I do. And that's kind of how it started, isn't it?
And then she was like, but I'm only going to, this is
I'll do the organising.
Yeah, I'll be behind the scenes. You go and do the teaching and I'll run the schedule. And then you were really, it's like, Kay's a brilliant teacher and also very meticulous and like would actually figure things out and not wing it. So, one day I was just like, well, I'm going out this afternoon, you're teaching, because I knew unless I made you do it, you would have done it. So so it came good, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like diving off the deep end. Awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about your aesthetics. So how your quilting evolved and changed over time. Did you each start very traditionally? Have you kind of stayed there? Have you moved into modern or art quilting? Let's start with you, Jenny.
For me, I've come to the conclusion that I'm quite an emotional maker, and I think that would be what actually guides the quilts that I make. So if I really love a fabric, I'm as happy now making a 9 patch or a square in a square or a pinwheel, because sometimes I just really love and find the joy in those traditional patterns because they allow the fabrics to sing. And I think for me, often the fabrics themselves are a real catalyst for what I want to make and how best is going to showcase them. We're really lucky in our work, I think, that we get to interview and spend time with amazing quilters who are really modern and working in all different mediums, or like Roderick Kirakoff collecting unconventional quilts. And so visually, you're seeing so much stimulation all the time that you're excited and you want to have a go at it. So I don't feel like I could ever narrow myself down to one medium of quilts because I love them all and I can see the value in them all because there's always a story, isn't there? Whatever people make. So I think, I think I'm too eclectic and my mind's too curious to hone one. Sometimes I really wish I could be I really admire people with a coherent style, but I'm not sure I'm ever going to be that kind of a quilter.
Yeah, ever evolving. And how about you, Kay? How did your story change over time with your quilting aesthetic?
I think to start off with, again, for me, definitely the fabrics was the catalyst. And like I say, with that Anila, I knew I wanted to make a quilt with those fabrics. They were amazing. And it didn't really matter what the design was. But I think at that time we were probably both slightly drawn to the more kind of modern contemporary look. It felt like we weren't being, like this, what's quilting? It's really what, but actually, as time's gone by, I think actually I'm getting more drawn towards some of the traditional stuff, like just because the more you learn about it as well, the more you see in some of those things. And again, I don't know what I would say I am as a quilter. Like, what do I like so many different things. Yeah, I think I'm still drawn to a bit of both, but equally love some of those traditional quilts that we see now because you can appreciate so much what goes into making them and the history of them. And I find that endlessly fascinating. So, yeah, probably not quite as eclectic as you. I don't know,
No, you're a bit more... You like a bit of order.
I like a bit of order, yeah.
Exactly. And a bit of blue fabric. Case quilts would probably all be blue.
It would. and then when I look at my fabric and it's like, why is it all blue?
I have an extraordinary amount. Yeah, I have so much blue as well. I don't know why. And I don't know if I use it all, but I remember, I love how you guys give yourselves permission to not have to follow that. I have to be modern because everybody's modern. I have to do art because everybody's trying that. You're doing what the fabric draws you to do or what you really love. So that's really important. I love that part of your story. Okay, so I know everyone listening right now is probably thinking to themselves, Brandy, they were leaning into how they got started together. They were starting to tell that story and you cut them off. But I want to step out of the story and find out where you're living now. And then we're going to come right back to that. So where are you both living and who are your loved ones that you share your world with every day? Let's start with Jenny.
Well, I live in Ilkley, so not far off the moors, the famous Ilkley moors. Not far, it's Bronte country, really. So, Wuthering Heights is a big thing at the minute. That's kind of the landscape of where we live. And I live with my husband, Paul, and my 3 children that, are at that age where slightly coming and going a little bit, like university and then back home again. So on a good day, we're all there.
And I am about 10 minutes away, just outside of Ilkley, in a smaller village called Burley, but still on the edge of the moor. So the moor kind of goes between our towns, doesn't it? And so I was brought up in Lancashire. We now live in Yorkshire. So there's a bit of a War of the Roses thing going on there. So I've come to the other side of the Pennines, which is some people would think was not acceptable. But I love it. And I have 2 children. One of them's at university. My son's still at home and I have him part of the time, and also a crazy dog part of the time,
yes.
don't I? Called Willow,
who is the studio dog sometimes as well.
Aw. Oh, so great. And sometimes it's okay to go to the other side if you're going there for friends, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get back into the story of how you guys connected. I know that you mentioned already there was kind of a defining moment when Jenni asked Kay, like, will you do this with me? But let's talk a little bit more about that story. So when she asked you, Kay, what did you think? Like, oh my goodness, what am I getting myself into?
I think a little bit. I think like Jenni said, I probably am not the kind of person that would just automatically go, I'm going to go and do this and I'm going to do that. And I wouldn't have been brave enough probably to like go out on my own and set up a business or whatever. So I think I need someone like Jenni to kind of go, no, this is a great idea. Like, we can do this. Let's just try it and see what happens. But I was totally of the thinking, well, yeah, Jenni's this massively creative person, which she is, and I'll be fine. And I'll just organise it, because that's not her skill. And that's kind of what she came to me with, wasn't it? Of like, I know you can do this. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll film you. I'll work out how to whatever we're going to teach, and then you can go and do it, and that'll all be fine. So I kind of felt like I was still within my comfort zone at that point, because I wasn't expecting to do anything else. So that was fine.
Yeah. So Jenni, what's your version of how the story went?
Well, yeah, it was exactly like we knew we liked the same things. We'd been on workshops together with some other friends as well, but I feel like we knew we were really into it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Kind of all the dressmaking and like coming down to Festival of Quilts.
Yeah.
And yeah, we used to go away with quite a group of friends pre-COVID, and like Kay would, make sure we all got fed and what projects we were going to do, and just that level of organisation. So I don't remember even, like, I'm quite a spontaneous person. I don't feel like it's something that I'd sat and even planned about for that long. It's just we were in each other's lives a lot, weren't we? And I think I definitely knew that it wasn't something that I wanted to do on my own. I went on this business accelerator course to learn, have mentors and different things. And again, we were meeting and I was telling you all about it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly this space became available. So it felt like quite a natural
And I've come on a couple of those things with you, hadn't I, by
Yeah.
then, of like thinking about business and stuff.
Yeah. I did find a book recently, and it was like that I'd written 10 years ago, wasn't it? Like about running your own business, and you had to write your little goals and fill in the pages. And, I'd put like wanted to maybe be in the front of a magazine, and definitely, to have contributed to something stitchy and have a few followers online. And then it was like, and what are your weaknesses? And it was like, organisation. And I don't really like the money side of things. Must find someone to help with that. But it's become so much more than that, because we're equals and we're partners.
Yeah.
But and we've learned a lot about each other's strengths and weaknesses, haven't we?
Yeah.
Like, people think, is there this secret? Do we really fall out and hate each other in real life? We really, like, it's really nice how
complementary. We are lucky because we are similar in lots of ways. And like Jenni said, we definitely like, if we go away, we both want to go and look at the same art. We want to go to the same shows, or we like, we both like music, whatever it is. We obviously, we've met tap dancing. We like that. But equally, we're then fairly different in other ways, but complementary. And that's, I think, why it's worked, isn't it? Is because we do complement each other, and we don't then clash because we're not vying for the same.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to do that anyway. Go to town.
Yeah, like the money thing, Jenni's like, I don't mind doing that at all.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy kind of doing that part.
And I do social media, which
I'm terrible at.
Yeah. Well, and it's nice that you're encouraging each other as well, because, sounds like Jenni is pulling Kay out of her shell and getting in front of the camera, and, vice versa with the money and everything. So you sound like a really good team. I want to go back to kind of that beginning. Jenni, you mentioned that you sort of, you found a space. Was it like, it wasn't a bricks and mortar store? Was it more like a studio space when you guys got started? And what were you offering from the beginning?
Yeah, well, I'd previous to that, in the local theatre space, which was obviously busy on an evening with productions and things, but there's some spare rooms there, I set up a bit of some sewing classes, drop-in sewing classes for new mums and babies. So until the babies were really mobile, because again, I think I knew that sewing had become a bit of a lifeline for me when Harry was little, and that time in Canada, that I think, you know, you're doing a lot for everybody else and nothing to progress your own skills. So I'd started teaching that, and but always renting the space, and that got more and more difficult, like the clear up, the putting away. I was carting down a baby and, like, you know, 10 rental sewing machines and cutting mats and everything. So that was slowing down a little bit and getting harder. So this space, I went with a friend on that business accelerator who was looking at it for a photography studio. I hadn't thought of ever getting my own space. And then I think when I heard how much the rent was and just saw it in the location, it's right near the railway station and parking, I was like, could there be enough scope to actually teach classes and make a living out of that? So we already had a group of people, like the mum and baby sewing, and then some quilters and some dressmaking courses. We kind of had enough people, although it was never that profitable, really, when we look back, which is why we've moved on to other things, you know, because the problem is with an in-person space. So we weren't retailing, we weren't selling fabrics or notions or anything. We were putting on local quilt shows and teaching people how to do everything, where we're dressmaking, quilting. But obviously you can only teach people well in quite small one-to-one quantities. And so it wasn't particularly scalable, but having that support network there was great. And we didn't put ourselves under loads of pressure, did we?
No.
As long as we could pay the rent and we, you know, set up a business. Yeah. I think we always hoped it would evolve into something else, which fortunately it has.
Yeah. So let's just go into that evolution. So you were teaching both, you know, garments and dressmaking, and was quilting involved at that early point as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so where did you gravitate to from there?
Really, it only changed during COVID. So, well, no, that's not true. Before that, we'd been teaching in real life, and then we got the go ahead to write the book with Liberty, didn't we? Which did that happen in 2018?
Yeah, or even before.
So we were writing the book, and it was due to be published at the beginning of 2020. Obviously, then COVID came along, and we went into lockdown, and we couldn't go and promote the book in real life. We were trying to, so then at that point we didn't want it to just fizzle away and become nothing. So we thought, well, maybe we can do something online. Maybe we can try and promote it online. Maybe we can try and get people involved online. So that was the changing point, really, wasn't it? That the book was out there, but we couldn't be out there. So how were we going to deal with that? And that's when it started to change, wasn't it, really? Because we were then trying to think, can we do online events? Can we then maybe teach online? And that's how we then got into doing the stuff with Quiltfolk as well, because it came from that, didn't it?
Yeah, and as a backdrop to that, I guess, like, I'd been collecting Liberty fabrics since I was about 8 years old, because, again, they used to have a print mill up in the north of England where I used to go. And then I'd been making quilty pictures when I got back from Canada of little animals sleeping under quilts, always using Liberty fabrics, and queued up on there. They have an open call where you can go and try and get a slot to sell your original works in the store, and being turned away. Then I'd been back, like, befriending everybody in the haberdashery to try and get a meeting with the buyers. Then we knew they were bringing out quilting cottons, and I went off on this business accelerator. We got a bit of funding through that, didn't we? And export money to go to my first quilt market, where I met someone who worked at Liberty. So all this time we were teaching, like, these big dreams we had whilst doing our little studio classes did evolve into us, you know, convincing Liberty and Lucky Spool for us to write this Quilting with Liberty book. So we definitely kept our day jobs teaching people, but every night pretty much we were meeting and designing quilts and stitching them and writing the book. And it was 2 years of work because we were juggling that and 5 kids between us. But it was kind of like a labour of love, wasn't it? Because we knew we wanted to go beyond what we were doing, but we just didn't quite know how to do it, I suppose.
No, and it was, like you said, because my abiding memory of putting that book together is of us being there so many evenings. Like you said, we'd pick the kids up from school, get home, do whatever it was, and come back out again and be back in the studio then till 12 o'clock at night, whatever it was. And then in the heat of the summer, when we were actually doesn't get hot that often in England, but somehow that summer when we were actually sewing the quilts and putting them together, it was boiling, wasn't it? And we were then sitting away, literally putting the quilts together.
Well, give us a sneak peek into the pages of the book. What will we find when we open the cover?
Well, I guess, like I said, I studied art history. So the premise of the book, when the idea first came about, was Liberty, iconic world famous haberdashery and company. But it was at that time in 2020, it would have been 145 years old. Wow. So the pitch that we came up with was to design a quilt for every decade of Liberty's history. So from 1875 to the current day. And that was either inspired by fabric in the archive, the company's history, whether that they were evolving in printmaking,
the building.
How it was made, when it was built, the look of the outside, the mock Tudor black and white building, and all those things. And again, I'd come up with maybe the idea, or we did some research of how could we break that up, and then Kay basically could then design the quilts. And when we pitched that to Liberty, because they've never done a quilting book ever, in that 145-year history. So there's 2 books on kind of making things for the home with Liberty fabrics or some clothes, but it was the first ever quilting book. And we managed to, again, we were totally really, we got the contract to do it, and we hadn't really designed and made quilts, but we knew that we could, in theory, it's one of those. Is there a Richard Branson quote about get the deal and then figure out how to do it? It was we were like, we can do it. Well, I was like, we can do this. Kay was quiet and slightly terrified. But the book it's quilts, and then they actually let us the Lucky Spool team came over from California, and they let them do all the photography in the store. So then you're seeing the quilts in the places that inspired the designs, and it was really nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, lovely. So it's a bit of story of you'll learn, like Jenny said, about some of the history of the place and Arthur Liberty, who founded the shop, and then and stuff that they've got in the archive and all of that. So there's a story element to it, isn't there, running through, and then about Liberty of London, and then these 10 quilt designs 14 quilt designs.
15, because we snuck in an extra one at the end for the future.
Yeah. 15 quilt designs with beautiful Liberty fabrics. What's not to love?
Well, of course, this last year they celebrated 150th anniversary or birthday, I guess. Yeah. It was glorious.
I still sell the book in the haberdashery, and it goes, whenever we go there, it's always really nice to see it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. So you can buy it if you go to Liberty of London. Where else can you buy it if you want to get a copy online, you think?
Oh, yeah. It's online. It's on all
the usual places.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's available. Okay. So that sounds good. Okay. So we're going to take a moment and dive into design a little bit, because you both may have different answers for this, but related to what you've done in the past, what your Quiltfolk offerings are. When you look at design kind of in a nutshell, when you see something in the world that inspires you, how do you get that into an idea? Do you go pencil to paper? Are you digital? How do you guys work?
I think we work a bit of both like that. So like Jenny said, with the book and probably everything we've done since, we do definitely start a bit pencil to paper, don't we? Of just drawing something out and thinking, what might that look like? we rarely go straight in digital, I don't think. I think that tends to come afterwards. And then we do use, quilting software or whatever to help with that design. But I think to start off with, it's definitely more us scribbling things out, isn't it? And seeing whether we like the way we think it's going to work, and then get into the practicality of, well, will that work as a design? How would it come together? Quite often we're thinking about, like now with the work we do now, often we're also driven by what skills we might want to teach people. So how does that affect the design? Because do we really want to lean into teaching people how to do foundation paper piecing or whatever it might be? So I think we have lots of things that we're thinking about with design.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily look at quilts, do we? I think it's often external sources, like for a colour palette or, a theme. But I think often it's actually the story, the narrative that we want to tell that is the strongest driving force, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and that's maybe quite an unusual way to go about it.
Yeah.
But I think it takes you probably to more unexpected places. If you're trying to do something original, then I think it's exciting, isn't it? And we definitely go through a lot of permutations that don't work. And then weirdly we don't, and then and we always agree on that, don't we? Yeah. We've never had we're kind of going through and clicking, try that. And then suddenly we'll both go, yeah. Yeah, which is really nice.
It is, yeah.
Because it'd be quite hard if
one hated it and the other loved it, yeah.
Yeah, you probably both could walk into a store together, separate, and then find the same things that you both love.
Oh, we definitely do, yeah.
We turn up to work kind of wearing the same things sometimes without having discussed it, but we've subconsciously gone through what's the vibe today or who are we talking to and what should we wear.
Yeah. Well, I love, Jenny, in the past, in a conversation, you described yourself as kind of English eclectic. And I think that's what we see from the outside, from North America. We see if we think about the color story, well, it's this Liberty, English, eclectic, beautiful story. So I think that's what draws so many people to go on your adventures with you, which is lovely. So do you when you're coming up with these designs in the way that you do, is there one person that's better at one thing than the other? Like, do you collab together on everything, or do you do individual things sometimes and bring them together? How do you work together?
I can't visualize how you would actually make sometimes I can look at a quilt or a block or something and I know I like it, but I can't even see. And then Kay'll be like, what's a half square triangle twisted with a blah-de-blah? Like, so definitely you then plotting it and making it doable.
Yeah, Jenny definitely has got more of that creative initial kind of and like she said with the book, she'd literally draw something out and go, well, this, and then I'll be like, okay, how can I make that into a thing that can actually be put together and would work? Like we kind of laughed at it. Jenny will say she's angly challenged, angles of things and how things come together don't always make sense to you until you've done it, do they?
No,
and then
you're like,
make
it, and then I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I think I can visualize that. So again, we complement each other in that way because my brain does work more like that, doesn't it? I can see generally.
Or you'd puzzle it through until
I got it.
Until you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your strengths and weaknesses work very well together.
Yeah. Which is lucky, really.
Yeah, we haven't had to ever pull anyone else in externally to do the design for us. And we've just learned a lot again by just doing it and doing it again and doing it again, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go into I was chatting with you both about a quote and that you might love, and you each have brought one to the table. But when we were talking about that, Jenny said that Kay's quote would be, "You'll be the death of me, Jenny Smith." So why is that so telling?
I think because, and we've joked about this over the years, because
she said it so many times.
I said it. There was one particular time, and I think it slightly caught up in what something that with my quote, we'll circle back to it after we've done the others, and then it'll make more sense. Okay, well, let's start with yours, Kay. So your quote is, "Everything takes longer than you think." because Jenny is so wonderfully positive and what's the word I'm looking
Optimistic.
for? Optimistic.
Yeah.
So optimistic that, for example, when we were writing the Liberty book, she would go, "Oh, we were halfway there." And now, Jenny, we're like 20% through, like if you actually add up the quilts.
We've made 4 quilts.
And there's 50 to do. That's not 50%. I know maths is maybe not your strong point, but she'll go, we'll do that. That'll take us about a day. Take us about a month. So that's where, that again has become a bit of a joke, because whereas I think I've said so many times, everything takes longer than you think it might.
And it's true. I have been totally humbled over the years, Brandy. It's true. In most cases, with sewing and making, everything takes longer than you think.
Takes longer than you think. So you just have to give yourself that grace of, because I think, because Jenny is so optimistic and so enthusiastic, she wants to do everything sometimes. And just, we can do that and do that and that. We also maybe need to sleep occasionally. And so I think one has to be careful not to overstretch ourselves, don't we? Or, we have got families.
Yeah, I'm still doing it, actually. But anyway, not as bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kay's quote, excuse me. So Kay's quote was, everything takes longer than you think. And Jenny's quote is, no work is ever wasted. So why is that meaningful to you?
I think it's meaningful because I think it's really hard when you're trying to build a business and be successful. You throw yourself out. Like I said, we put ourselves into lots of opportunities, paid and unpaid often as well. Because we felt like it's exciting and interesting. And of course, we want to be involved with that, or we want to help with that, or we want to teach somebody that. And, we didn't go to business school. We're not very ruthless. So I think sometimes I used to find that quite a stressful thing because you're trying to strive to get somewhere. And I think in this industry, it's hard because also when it's your hobby and it's your passion and you're trying to make it your career, there's all those things in the mix. And then my friend Nikki, her husband's a TV director, and she said to me, but Jeremy always says no work is ever wasted. And it's always really stuck with me because I think you're lucky to have work and interesting work. And I don't think you can often go into things just because you want an outcome. Like the best partnerships that we've developed in this industry and the nice things that have happened is because we've just gone into them with an open mind and hoping for the best. Mm-hmm. And so I think it gives yourself that grace a little bit that whatever, even if you're learning actually, and often we do this as well, it's we always review projects afterwards. We're did we like that? What did we like about that? Let's try do more of that. Or what didn't we like? Mm-hmm. And then that's how we've shaped our work ever since. And so, but we're not ever hard on ourselves, are we? If something you can't tick a box as to why there's not a direct outcome. I feel like that was a long answer, but
it makes total sense. I mean, because you could try something 5 times and it might be iteration number 4 that, yes, that's the one, right?
Yeah. And I think it's so true. And I think I've actually taken that into life as well, in that you say, even if the thing that you learn from that is that you never want to do it again, you've learned something. Yeah. So it isn't wasted, is it? And again, it's that, we have that fear of failing, don't we? As, people.
Or just being too results driven. Yeah. You don't want your kids to get into that mindset either, does it? Because if you're going into it with honest intentions, well, even if it doesn't show up why that was useful till 20 years down the line, it's not wasted, is it? It's still... Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of honest intentions, I'm so excited. You guys are working on a new website. So coming soon, you're working on a new website. It will be announced on your Instagram and things like that. So where can we find you on the world of social media?
We are Jenni and Kay Create on Instagram and Facebook, everywhere, aren't we? So that's where you can find us. And we'll let people know what we're up to, because we need to do that.
Well, we've got many different hats. And for quite a few years, we were talking about again, who are we? Because, I set the company up as Jenny Smith Limited, and then like all of that. So it was like a bit of an ongoing conversation, or people asking us, we're like, we don't know really who we are.
Yeah.
And then also like, it could have been Jenni and Kay Quilt, but we do a lot of other things. So eventually, only last year really, I think we hit on that. So it's quite new to us, but that's who we are.
Yeah. So do you have a name picked out?
Just not a website.
You got what do the cups say on them?
Well, the boys who work with us got us nice branded cups that said Jenni and Kay Create for Christmas.
Oh, so that will be what the new branding will be. Jenni and Kay Create. Okay, that's so wonderful. Okay, so let's just mention Quiltfolk briefly. We're going to talk more about that later, but I want to send people in the direction of the Quiltfolk website. So that is quiltfolk.com, because there are 2 lovely bios of Jenni and Kay on that website. So you can go and check that out for sure. So I want you guys to try to form this in your head together. What do you bring to the world with your business in a nutshell?
I think we bring honest, authentic stories. Like that's what drives us, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that fits with the Quiltfolk ethos, because it's always about celebrating the people, if they're in the spotlight or not. I think that's our main driver, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely that. And then hopefully teaching people and giving them, what we like about the teaching part is giving people their opportunity to tell their story, but also not to feel judged in doing that, however it is they want to do it. Like, we want people to make things that make them happy, whether they feel that's right or wrong. And like the number of people that still, we feel, that they want permission to be able to make what they want. We want them to just make what they want and be happy about it.
Yeah.
I think that's our goal, isn't it?
And to get more people quilting.
Yeah.
I think we're still quite youngish in our industry, really. And there are still those misconceptions, particularly in the UK, that not everyone, it's not as widespread. It's not everywhere. There aren't a quilt shop on every corner. So wherever there's an opportunity to bring people in, and bringing them in through human stories is the easiest way, isn't it? Because they understand that. And then the quilting kind of comes next without realizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys are putting that out there with Jenni and Kay Create on YouTube. So tell us the kind of things you're putting up on your YouTube channel.
I mean, really on the YouTube at the moment, it's probably mostly our Quiltfolk stuff, isn't it? But but we've historically told, again, lots of people's stories, like with the Just One Quilt films. Again, that was about us talking to people about why they made, even if they'd only ever made one quilt, why did they make that quilt? And what was, because I think we realised when we were teaching in the studios that there generally is a story, even if people themselves don't know what it is. And the number of times we would chat to people, and then that realization came to them of why they'd maybe made a quilt. It's quite telling, isn't it? And it's so nice to hear those stories. It's a privilege to hear those stories. So it's generally been stories, hasn't it?
Yeah. Those are Just One Quilt was the idea of, we know really no one's ever going to make just one quilt, but we made, again, pre-lockdown, like 40 odd films, didn't we? Just really short films, again, 2-3 minutes that people can watch. And there's always a heartfelt story in there. And they're probably the thing we're proudest of, because they're quite timeless as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's the perfect kind of thing to stick in your ears while you're quilting and just binge listen to a whole bunch, right? So that would be a lot
there'll be
of fun.
some familiar names in there. Like, guess you've had like Karen Lewis and Joe Avery and Chris English, lots of people, but also lots of people who just came through our studio and have never appeared on YouTube in any other way. And I think that's as important as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so true. Okay, so you can find that at Jenni and Kay Create on YouTube. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about collaborations. So we'll start with you, Jenni. What was your very first collaboration?
Orifil. Threads, because again, it's kind of funny looking back, but this was me. How do we get into this industry and what do we do? And so I used to go down to a trade show in the UK, business to business, at the NEC, where Festival of Quilts is held, and chatted to the Orifil people, and they had a bit of a boring booth at that time because it always used to be the same time as QuiltCon. So Alex Brunelli used to take all the fun quilts to QuiltCon, and there wasn't much left in England. So entrepreneurial me was like, well, your booth's not that exciting. How about next year I bring like my textile pictures and the things I was talking about that I was doing at that time. And I did that. And, that's 10 years ago. We've been friends with the Orifil crew because, again, they were so like Bradley Mitchell, who's now the big boss really in the US. He's from the town next to us. So we had that in common when I first met him. And I think in the Liberty book at the front, I put he's been like my guardian angel in the quilty world, just that he's always been a very great person as a sounding board and just support. Because, when you're trying to find your way, it's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we sewed with their threads and just loved using them. And then I think it's just blossomed into a lovely, lovely collaboration. We've learned a lot from them, haven't we?
Yeah, they're so encouraging of so many different people and creators, obviously, in the industry. But like they've always been great with us, and like we've tried to do as much to help them back, haven't we? And we do absolutely love the threads. So like, it's nice.
Yes. So it was that, and I guess it was Janome kind of at the same time. Well, even earlier in that, when I was first running those mum and baby sewing classes, I needed sewing machines, and in the UK, Janome did a really brilliant rental scheme, so you didn't have to have that upfront cost of buying them and maintaining them. And ever since then, we've done lots of projects. Then like Kay came in on that, didn't you? And we've done projects together with Janome, and it's the same people still. 10 years on that we ring and go see, like we're going to Janome next week just to catch up, and so it's never felt too transactional in that way. It's just been like a friendship really and support, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, let's dive into some of the stories about these two wonderful collaborations. So let's go into the Orifil sort of menopause lounge. How did that idea come about, and what did you do?
Okay, well, so we've been helping out ever since, for the last 10 years. Every summer at Festival of Quilts, we've then always gone and been on the Orifil booth and just been there just to kind of tell people how wonderful the threads are. That's it, really. We just wanted to help spread the word. And then the next book we wrote that got published last year is called Menopause Makes. And so that's 10 projects all about, and that covers quilting and dressmaking and, general sewing, doesn't it? Bits, bags, things. And that came about because that is just the time of life we were in. And we suddenly realised that all the conversations we were having when we got to work every day, so many of them were about the menopause and, being perimenopausal and how we felt and how that was affecting our lives. The conversations just developed from that, didn't it? And we suddenly kind of were thinking, we were saying how one of the quilts from the Liberty book would be a perfect menopausal book because it's all made out of Tana lawn and it's light and the fabric's just so soft, and that'd be the perfect thing to sleep under when you're too hot at night. And then we were laughing about various garments and thinking, this is nice and floaty, and then we were like, well, actually, this could be a thing. Could we start a conversation or continue a conversation that's maybe just starting to happen about menopause, but in our community, because these are our people. These are the people that we know and can maybe connect with, and how can we bring those two things together? And so that's where that came from. And then last year at Festival of Quilts, Orifil were kind enough to dedicate the whole space really to the book and that conversation. So we had a bigger booth than normal, and sofas in there, and we just invited fans for when people. You get too hot, and just inviting people to come and have that conversation with us, and it was so lovely, wasn't it, that we did get so many people coming and just telling us, their stories and saying thank you for like opening this conversation up a bit more, and this is how I feel and how it's affected me, and And, you know, but we wanted to say, you know, maybe sewing can help because it can be mindful and it can help you, and it, all of those things, and making these things can maybe help your brain and all of the stuff that you suffer with while you're perimenopausal and menopausal. So that was a lovely collaboration.
What a great idea. And Jenny, can you dive into the pages of a book a little deeper for me? Like what kind of projects are in there?
Yeah, well, we did it definitely once we'd come up with a project. Some were ones like a dressmaking pattern that we already had made, like a maker's apron that we'd sold lots of copies of that we knew was popular. We were thinking about what skills we wanted to do. So we kind of wrote this wish list, and really they seemed to work in order of complexity. So we started with an eye mask because, like, for insomnia and not scrolling on your phone, setting a good routine, disrupted sleep, low estrogen, you know, it's responsible for a lot of things. So we started with that, thinking if people have made face masks in lockdown, for example, it's the construction is quite similar. And then we moved, there's like a basket for lost things, like when you put your phone in the fridge instead of in, then you've got a personal attachment to it. There's some mindful hand stitching with like a portable log cabin, so quilty blocks. There's a jacket, a floaty, like easy construction jacket for your first garment, for if you're hot or your body shape's changed and you're not that happy with it. There's a relaxation blanket for kind of post yoga. So each, in the end, what we did, and talking to the publishers, was we put symptoms so that someone could look in the book and say, okay, low mood or
forgetfulness,
brain fog, or how appropriate.
We did laugh when we were writing
anxiety.
it. We're like, of actually, how tricky is this going to be? Because this is two women trying to write a book who can't remember what they did yesterday. Like,
and then plus you're getting into it while you're sort of feeling, does this perimenopause? And by the time you're deep into the book, you might be in full blown menopause. Like, who knows what's going to happen, right?
But it's very bright. It's very colourful. The wonderful Rashida Coleman-Hale, the fabric designer for Ruby Star, she designed the front cover for us. We used some of her fabrics in the projects in the book. There's a zippy pouch because Kay's always got dry, itchy skin, which I'm now getting because I'm a few years younger. I laugh at her like she was every day in the office, like, oh, my elbows.
Why are you
itchy.
scratching your elbow?
And then I'm like, oh no, I'm itchy, and like greasy hair. So things for lotions and potions. So they're all projects with an aim to, you know, helping in a way with symptoms, but also just because the overriding theme is that we know if we can get people sewing, they're going to feel loads better, you know, just because they've got a hobby that they love. And if you can get people doing that in their 40s and 50s, it's a lovely thing to take on into, you know, later life, isn't it, really? So we felt it was a good kind of segue.
Yeah, it sounds like a wonderful book. And I love the part where, you know, Kay can be like, never mind my itchy elbows, just wait a couple of years. It's coming, you know.
Exactly.
It's a lot of fun. Okay. So, and I have a little note here that I need to ask Kay about the patchwork dresses story. What's that all about?
Oh, yeah. So there's a wonderful company in London called Pioneers, which is run by two women, Clara and Tanya, and they set up a business making dresses in that kind of pioneer style, all made with dead stock Liberty fabric. So it came onto our radar because we obviously love Liberty so much. And we're like, oh, they look beautiful dresses. And Jenny contacted Clara to start off with saying, we love what you do. Maybe there's something we could do together. And we got chatting with them, and then they were keen. They said, yeah, we love the look of patchwork. We love quilts. So we ended up doing a collaboration with them where we made with it, and we got a bunch of people together, made a bit of a cottage industry of running off the patchwork elements. So it's got an Ohio star on the front bib, and then a patchwork element that ran all the way around the hem of the dress. So Jenny and I and these other quilters made those elements. We sent them off, and they got made into these beautiful dresses, which we then...
Obviously, I said, this will only take a few hours. And then
we're like 40 hourglass blocks to go on one dress, you know, kind of.
But worn by lots of people. They've just dressed. Sarah Jessica Parker was recently in a play in London, and she went to Pioneers a bit, and they've made some nice clothes for her. So, like, they're just fun entrepreneurial women, aren't they?
Yeah, and everything's made by, you know, they employ a lot of women, they do it ethically and pay everyone properly, which we loved, and they love liberty. So it just felt like a perfect. And we still always pop in and see them when we go to London, don't we? And say hello. Yeah. So they're a lovely brand. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing about these collaborations. And Jenni, you mentioned something about a Janome skills share. So what was that all about?
That was on the back of, we'd made the little Just One Quilt films sponsored by Janome and Aurifil pre-lockdown. And then when lockdown was coming, we were talking about how can we do something as well for people. And we came up with this idea of a skill share, because we knew, again, that making that first quilt actually is quite a hurdle if you've no one in your family or friends, to help you. So Janome put out a call and we got over 80 people, I think it was, wasn't it, who had made a quilt. And we're like, again, even if you've made 1 or 2 quilts, you know more than most people. So you don't have to have made 20 quilts in order to do this. And we matched, with Janome's help, we matched up people who wanted to make their first quilt with like a mentor. And it was a competition in the element that one pair, at the end, they had to have a finished quilt. They had a number of months to do it. And one pair was chosen, and both the mentor and the mentee won a really nice sewing machine. But again, it became so much more than that, because there were people, so we brought in some of our friends, but lots of people who we'd never met signed up, and there were transatlantic conversations, weren't they? And people all over helping the other person to make a quilt, and then they had to kind of tell their story and submit that at the end. And so we shared a lot of that online as well, didn't we? And we had a full video course online at the time of how to make your first quilt, which we gave people free access to that. So they had a mentor, but they could also follow through. And so, like the head of design at Liberty at the time, we paired him up with a quilter, and he's never stopped quilting since, because he was designing all these fabrics, but didn't know how to make a quilt. And there were just so many stories, young and old. And I think it just really worked during that difficult period, because it was a real lifeline for some people, wasn't it?
Yeah. And just seeing how happy, again, it made some people that they'd made a quilt they never thought they would, or they'd made a friendship. So many friendships came out of that, of people that had never met before, didn't they?
I've still never met in real life, but they were on Zoom. It was that era of it, kind of everyone was going online, so people could connect to choose their fabrics. Because you just need someone, don't you? Like, I was there for you initially.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it's quite hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so great to have that friend. And I love these collaborations have been so fun to talk about, but you also did something for charity that was quite monumental. So tell me about the Sophie Hayes Foundation.
Yeah, so we linked up again, and that was kind of via Liberty. Sophie Hayes Foundation help women who have been trafficked, and they give them skills to get back out into the workplace, really. So we did a collaboration with them where we were going to make these community quilts. So we got about 100 women in London, in Manchester and Birmingham. And we ran days with help of some of the volunteers, where the women would come and make a quilt block or 2. And it might involve just drawing on some fabric or stitching if they wanted to. We were there to help them, do a bit of embroidery if they wanted, and to tell their stories. So we did that over a number of months, and then we put 3 quilts together, and those quilts now live in the International Slavery Museum, which is in Liverpool in the north of England. So that was a lovely thing, again, just to give those women a bit of a voice, and for them to feel like they were able to share their stories. But again, just seeing them put those stories into thread and fabric, it's a really powerful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes they just have put a word or an image or something like that. And Liberty and Sophie Hayes had been working together. It was like their 10th anniversary, and they'd had them as the charity of the year. So they wanted to celebrate that with something that would live on forever, I guess, which is why quilts came onto the radar, really.
Yeah. And sometimes when you do a charity or community project like that, you think you hope it's going to be of such benefit to the recipients or the women learning to quilt. But really, you get so much from giving, don't you? So that's just sounds like such a great project. Okay, so we've talked about your two wonderful books, The Quilting with Liberty in 2020 and The Menopause Makes in 2025. Let's talk a little bit about your speaking, because I'm in Canada and I heard some wonderful raves that you guys just did the Waterloo Quilt Guild recently. And they were like, where have these people been all our lives? They had so much fun with you. So you guys really enjoyed doing a guild lecture. So did you do that one together? And what was it all about?
We did that one together. And it was all about, we were telling them about what we've been doing on our travels with Quiltfolk.
Yeah.
Because that very specifically for them was they were doing a virtual tour of the British Isles. So because we visited with Quiltfolk places in England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, we tried to condense those stories that we've found as we've been traveling around into a bit of an introduction to quilting in the British Isles. So that's what we chatted to them about. And we had great fun, didn't we?
Yeah, it's lovely. Like, again, we do miss our in-person studio sometimes. So it's really nice. And again, putting together something, having a deadline to do something different when comes up with a request is quite nice, because it makes us reflect a little bit on what we've been up to, which you don't always allow yourself time to do. You're always moving on to the next thing, I think.
Yeah, when we were writing the presentation, and that was great. And remember when we went there, and it was nice for us, wasn't it?
Making connections between tartan and linen and all these things.
Yeah, well, that is so fun. Well, I'm friends with a whole bunch of people in the Waterloo Quilting Guild, of course, and they had rave reviews. They had this wonderful event, and you fit the theme perfectly. So if you're listening right now to this podcast and you're the program coordinator and you're thinking you want to try something new, have a really fun lecture, be sure to reach out to these two. You can message them on the social media. You can go to their website. You'll find it, I'm sure. I trust you. So I really think also I should mention Jenny does a Quilting with Liberty fabrics lecture as well. So what's that one about?
Well, that is really the story of the book. I might rope Kay in on that now.
Yeah, good idea.
Lockdown, and when we were all separate and everything, I used to get up in the middle of the night. But yeah, it's a 1 hour lecture. I've probably given it at least 50, 60 times.
Yeah.
And it's really nice because it's a deeper dive into all those, like what's it like to work with a big company like Liberty, the design studio, but really the history of the company and how that informed the quilt designs. A bit of William Morris thrown in there, a bit of art history. It's good.
Oh, and it would be such a great lecture for over here in North America, because we all love Liberty. And of course, the draw is, can we get both Jenni and Kay? Of course, that would be wonderful, right? Okay, so this question for both of you. We'll start with Kay first. In your creative practice, what brings you joy?
I love spending that time. When I allow myself the time to just do something that I want to do, then it always reminds you how much you love it. And I think, especially for me, I've found, again, over the years, what I wouldn't have expected is how much I enjoy hand sewing. And probably because it makes you slow down, maybe. I find it so satisfying to see that come to life. That brings me a lot of joy, actually. Yeah. And how about you, Jenni? What brings you joy?
I think I like when the unexpected happens. So because I don't always have a plan with what I'm making, I still am ultimately fascinated that the fact is that you can get some fabric and some thread and you can create something that has never existed before. But again, it's allowing myself the time to have that playfulness, which can get lost. But when I have it, I really like it.
And the truth is, both of you bring so much joy to the quilting world. So right now we are going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk all about Jenni and Kay's studio space, Quiltfolk teaching and travel, of course, and the events they're doing there, and what else is coming soon. We'll be right back. Quiltfolk is bringing the world of quilting to you. Whether through our quarterly print magazine or our virtual education programs, you can discover quilting across the country and around the globe without leaving the comfort of your home. It's been nearly 10 years since the very first issue of Quiltfolk Magazine was released, and we're still traveling far and wide to bring you the stories behind the stitches. Quiltfolk's ever-expanding virtual education programs bring quilters inspiration from around the world in our Adventure series. Part travel documentary, part workshop, each destination serves as the spark behind a unique quilt project taught by our workshop hosts and special guests. In addition to the Adventure series, each annual Block of the Month program follows a new theme designed to keep you quilting throughout the year, all while teaching you new skills and creative confidence. Expand your world and join the Quiltfolk community today. Head on over to quiltfolk.com and use the code FIRE20 for 20% off your order at checkout. That's exclusive to you. Thank you for listening. And we are back with Jenni and Kay, and let's talk about your studio space. So do you each individually have separate spaces, or what do you do there?
We're in Jenni's garden as we speak. So our studio space is a purpose-built studio in Jenni's garden, which has been here how long?
Oh, a good 8 or 9 years, I think.
And then once again after lockdown, when we decided to slightly pivot our business and not teach in person anymore, and we were online, we decided to work from here, didn't we? And so Jenni doesn't have very far to come to work, and I don't have that far either, but a little bit further.
Yeah. So it's shared because it's all the fabric and the goodies that come in, whether it's for workshops or fun. It lives here, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah. So describe your space to us.
Well, it's like a wood-clad building. It's a stone wall at the back. It's got a partial grass roof. It's got a very bright orange door, which if you look on our Instagram from a while ago, we always take photos in front of that, don't we? It's got a nice garden around it. And then inside now, it's kind of geared up for filming our workshops and pushing them out. So we've got fancy lights in the ceiling, a table that goes up and down, height adjustable table. We've evolved over the years from one you had to go down and screw up to one with like a turny wheel that went up and down. Now we've just got a button. So we're like, we just think we're getting a bit fancier, don't we? as life evolves. And knickknacks, shelves of curiosities with things that we collect on our travels and lots of memories. So it's really nice, isn't it?
And cupboards full of fabric, obviously.
Yeah, that sounds like so much fun. Okay, so Kay, let's talk about your favorite time of day.
My favorite time of day, I don't know. I'm definitely not a morning person, although I think I work well in the morning because I hate getting up in the morning.
That's not favourite, though.
No, I know. I wish I was. So I don't know. I've struggled to think about this. I think I probably like the evenings, and then you're reflecting on what you've done in the day. Hopefully you've done something positive or creative or whatever it might be, and then you can just relax. I think so. I think I'm probably more of a night person.
And that might be a good time for the hand stitching as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Jenni, what's your favorite time of day?
I think in the warm months, or when I'm on holiday, then sundown, I love. I like the feeling that you've done a good day's work and also that you're easing into whatever you might fancy doing later in the evening. Yeah. It changes, I think, over time, because definitely whilst the children were all still little, then I became a real night owl a few years ago, actually, and I used to love from about 10 o'clock at night, because I'd come into the studio and just do what I wanted to do uninterrupted. And I think when you're juggling all those things. I used to love that as well, because I knew I could set my mind to something and not be broken off 10 million times.
Yeah. Jenni, let's continue with you then. What is the best thing you do for your own self-care?
I get outside in the fresh air. So we live near Ilkley Moors, and I try and make myself get out in some capacity for a walk whenever I can. I'm 50 this year on New Year's Eve, so I've decided that I want to walk 500 miles, intentional walks with friends and family to catch up with people. But again, just getting outside. And I've done it in January, and apparently it's rained every single day since the 1st of January in the UK, hasn't it? Yeah. But I've still got out, and when I reflect already, even on January, I'm like, this has been the best January, because I think it's a hard month, isn't it, after Christmas and things. And I think probably it's just because I've made myself, no matter what, get out. So I think that's my new mantra.
Yeah, walking is so great. Moving your body, right? Okay, and how about you, Kay?
Yeah.
Kay, what do you...
I also love a walk, but I think I love reading. And if I get out of the habit of reading, I really miss it. So I think, if I give myself that time to just spend reading a book, I never regret it.
Yes. I remember you saying once that you were worried that you might die and you wouldn't have read all the books that you wanted to read. And that was a genuine fear, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, books just lift us up. I mean, every time I read a book, I just feel like, what's the next one I'm going to read? I'm so addicted to Audible, actually, listening to books. I do that as well.
I haven't gone there yet, and I keep thinking I must, because so many people tell me how good it is.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. I do love the feeling of a good book in my hands if I'm on a beach somewhere or whatever. But when I have Audible while I'm stitching or walking or hiking, or even if I have a long drive by myself, I'm absolutely addicted. It just lifts me up. I pick good choices, I think. So that's really helpful as well. Okay. So this is a part of the podcast I've really been looking forward to. And I think everybody wants to hear about this wonderful part of your journey with Quiltfolk. So let's talk all about the teaching and the events. Let's dive into each thing. So who wants to start talking about the blocks of the month?
Well, so Quiltfolk, until we came along, it's just a magazine, but it was an incredible magazine.
Yeah.
There wasn't an educational component, and the magazine doesn't have projects in. It's advert free. There's no projects. It's about the people and the stories. Hence why we loved it and subscribed. Yeah. But we came along as quilters and with a capability to film tutorials and push them out there. And it's evolved. But our first block of the month came about because we'd been following online a 100-day project by an amazing US quilter, not in the spotlight, Margaret Fleischer, who was a former teacher. And she was doing book covers. So talking about reading, making amazing improv quilt blocks for 100 days based on book covers. And we just loved them. And so we came up with this idea of, what are these formulas that she's got? How is she approaching these things? And we came up with the name Patchwork and Prose. And we just put this program together. Margaret was over in Philadelphia. We filmed her. We then came up with tutorials ourselves. We dived into books and storytelling. Brilliant. And we loved it, didn't we? And it just had an amazing response, because I think quilters love reading. And then we've done one on unexpected and unconventional quilts with Roderick Kirakoff, a whole 9 months of breaking the rules and being a quilt rebel. And then last year we did one with the International Quilt Museum, from the 1930s to the current day quilt, the decades, diving into quilt history, but then always making blocks that we then create inspired by what we're seeing and what the trends were, so that they're always educational, but they're never traditional block of the month. We don't tell people what the quilt's going to look like before they sign up for a Quiltfolk block of the month. And that's kind of become our USP, because like Kay said earlier, we always want people to bring their own originality and ideas and personal memories into the quilts that we make. So we will teach people skills, but we'll always give them that option to make it their own. And this year it will be launching on World Quilting Day, but sign-ups to the end of April. We're doing one all about botanicals, because love flowers and flowered fabrics, and they bring so much joy into people's lives. And again, it's always our curiosity, I suppose, that leads us to what could we do a block of the month on. We know quilters love reading. We know they love gardens and being outside. And you buy these floral fabrics and you have them in your stash.
Yeah.
But how do you know to use them, to maximize them, to do dynamic fussy cutting with them, all the different skills. And we've managed to rope in some pretty cool friends and designers, haven't we, as well as special guests?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. You know what? We're going to dive into that a little bit more, a little bit later in the podcast, because I don't want to leave that hanging because it's such an exciting thing coming soon. But I want to take a step back for a second because I feel like I missed a little piece of the puzzle. How did you originally get connected with Quiltfolk, and what was the conversation like when you started saying, okay, this could be a possibility? How did it get started?
It got started on the back of the Quilting with Liberty book. So because we'd just gone into lockdown and we were trying to think of ways to get out there, and Jenny contacted Mike McCormick, who is the founder of Quiltfolk, still in charge of Quiltfolk now, and said, we've got this book, maybe it could be your book of the month, which they were doing various books, weren't they? And that was the initial conversation, wasn't it? And then it became, oh, well, maybe we could do other things for you. You haven't got education in the world. Maybe we could do something. And the conversation started there, didn't it?
Yeah, he watched some of the Just One Quilt films on our YouTube that we'd done with like those human stories, but in video form.
Yeah.
And loved them. It was just a bit like one of those conversations you feel destined to have, a bit like when we first went down and met the Orifil team, or, like, Mike's an amazing person. Obviously, you've had him as a guest on the podcast, and it's not a usual trajectory to be a former baseball player and then set up a quilting magazine. So already we're like, who is this guy? And in that sense, he's very, very open to new ideas and collaborations. So he was our kind of a guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And we just, we were able to try things. So we put together some little virtual show and tell films, interviewing people, collating them, and Quiltfolk pushed them out. And then we did a Manx log cabin tutorial, because it was something particular that my friend who'd lived on the Isle of Man had taught me how to do. And then we taught at the studio, and we thought it's a lovely portable technique. And again, there's a real story to it, ripping fabric, single needle, double thread, quilt as you go, all these elements. So he just was like, well, yeah, film it and we'll see if Quiltfolk readers would pay and take this workshop.
Yeah.
And, when we look back, it was just me and Kay terrified. Again, we'd totally thrown ourselves in the deep end. Of course we can film and edit and record and put music on this. And
we just about managed it.
We just about managed it. And that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And I love that everything is centered around the story. And of course, if you're listening right now, I encourage you to go onto Google or AI or wherever you do your searches nowadays and search for Mike McCormick on the Quilter on Fire podcast. His episode was one of the most listened to episodes of all time. It was a really great episode. He has such a wonderful story. So I encourage you to go check that out. So let's talk a little bit more about so you started with the blocks of the month, and then how did it start getting into these adventures that you guys are doing?
Well, again, we were doing that. And then one of the first things we did was we went and talked with Kay Fassett and Brandon Mabley about, Kay had just written in lockdown, actually, a book about his story and his studio and what that was. And we just thought that was such a lovely thing that we wanted to kind of delve into that a bit more and find out, who is this guy and what drives him. And so we came up with an idea that we would do a kind of bit of a storytelling thing and a bit of a workshop with him. And we did that. And then the next one we wanted to do was with Blair, wasn't it? Blair Stocker, who's in New Mexico. So
partly because we were traveling to QuiltCon, so we were like, is there anywhere near Phoenix as well?
Yes.
And she just moved down to outside Santa Fe and kept posting all these beautiful pictures, views from her studio window online. So we're like, we could go do chicken scratch in New Mexico. And like, because Mike is such an entrepreneurial person, like with the Kay Facet thing, originally it was like, well, what's your best ideas? Like, kind of write your quilty bucket list, if you will, of some, you know, people that we knew we'd love to learn more about their practice. And so we did. And he was like, okay, well, let's just start with Kay, then go in with your top of the list. And we were, you know, and like English people are like that particularly, you know, it probably takes like 5 months of meetings and, oh, well, start small and build up. So he was just like, just go in with your best idea. The Manx has been a big success. Off we go. And we were like, okay. So again, it was scary, really, because then we had to bring in a crew and things, but it just evolved.
It's evolved from there, and then the adventures were like, oh well, New Mexico was brilliant, and we can tell the story of maybe the place as well, and then it developed from that of, well, if we're saying we can go on these adventures and we want to find out what the quilted story is in France or the Netherlands or Hawaii, and who, you know, what's going on there and how is that different to what's happening somewhere else in the world, and what are the people doing? And so that's where the adventures then came from, is that we wanted, a bit like the magazine, to go and tell the stories of what was happening in a place, but focus a bit on the culture and the quilters, and always have a project as well, though, that is linked to either someone that we've been to see or something that we've learnt whilst we've been there, or a particular style. And it's just grown from there, hasn't it?
Like, you've been to Wales, obviously, on your summer trips, and Jen Jones and the Welsh Quilt Centre. We'd never been, and we're English. It's only 5 hours drive. And when we went there and realised we'd been missing out on all this patchwork and quilter history, and it's on our doorstep, it's like, well, if we don't know about it, the rest of the world probably don't know about it. And so if we can tell that story and share it with people, to us, that's valuable work. You know, that's what's always driven us, I guess.
Yeah, so true. And I love all the adventures that you've gone on. So are there some kind of travel highlights that you guys have really enjoyed together because of all this?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, you know, when we tell people, I think that we went to Hawaii to find out about quilting. If you're not a quilter and you don't know like how amazing the Hawaiian quilts are, or that, you know, people here, like, you've gone all the way to Hawaii to learn about quilts.
But actually, it was the flag quilts there that were made like whilst like in the midst of the annexation to the US happening, like people were making these beautiful flag quilts slightly in secret, weren't they? And there's a beautiful story about that and the curator that we met. So yeah, that was amazing, because for us it's a very exotic location, but also one's much closer to home.
Ireland blew my mind as well. Like, just some of the quilts there are stunning, aren't they? And it's, it doesn't have to be that far away, or like you say, Wales, like those Jen Jones's exhibitions every year are so beautiful, so well put together. And the quilts, the variety of quilts you see there never cease to like amaze us, do they? Italy you enjoyed?
Yeah, we went to the Verona Tessili, so like a biannual exhibition of quilts and textile art, but it's scattered across the city of Verona. So you just walk into this beautiful old palazzo where the G8 summit's held, and it's full of quilts. And then you're wandering down the road, and under a beautiful portico, there's some more quilts. It's a bit like a dream scenario, because we don't see many quilts. Again, in England, they're not round every corner. They're not hanging out of people's windows, are they, or on the laundry lines. Yeah. So wherever we go and the quilts are celebrated, it's amazing. Or if there's something really different to their construction, like in Ireland, or, you know, something very unique, you could read that in a book. But I think, again, seeing it and hearing it firsthand from people, and again, people who haven't really had the opportunity to share their stories, because it's still a small subject in the bigger world, isn't it? When I used to work in TV, you know, it would be hard to get that medium to be able to tell those stories. But because we know we've got, like you, an audience who love quilts, and you're with your people, wherever we go, it's it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about how these adventures work, because if someone's listening right now and they're thinking, well, are they doing tours with people with them? Are they doing this all virtually? How can we get involved? Tell us how they roll out.
Yeah, it's all virtual. So Jenni and I, we have a crew of 2. So Chris and James come everywhere with us. There's just the 4 of us. We travel to the location, we film it, we find out the stories, and then we come back and we put it all into a beautiful workshop, which we push out virtually. And then people sign up through the Quiltfolk website to do that. And we generally do it where we put it out and we do it over a weekend, and we are there, we're chatting with the people, we're showing them everything that we've made. We make it into beautiful edited films with, all of what we've seen whilst we're there and what we've learned. And then people have lifetime access to it. So then they can go back and watch it as many times as they want. There's always a tutorial element to it. So they will learn something as well. And whether they then want to make the project is obviously up to them, but it's there as and when they need it. And we find that people come back to that, they might not make that project until 2 years down the line. That's fine. It's still there and they can go back and watch it as many times as they like.
Yeah. And if someone's thinking right now, oh my gosh, I missed Hawaii, can they go back and buy that from the past?
Yeah.
So all the collections will be on the Quiltfolk website.
Yeah, pretty much everything that we've ever done is still available to buy now. Yes.
Okay. And I don't know whether you can give us a sneak peek or not, but can you tell us what's coming soon, or is it all big secret?
It's a bit of a big secret, but it's exciting because I think, again, going back to that initial bucket list and wish list that Mike McCormack asked us to do, a lot of those were destinations, but also quilt collectors, people that we love in the world.
Yeah.
So there's lots of exciting new things. You know us, like from what we've told you so far, things are ever evolving.
Yeah.
So I think people just have to keep an eye out.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some big destinations coming up.
Big destinations, interesting people. We're curious. Yeah. We like finding stuff out. We like people. So there's lots of exciting things on the horizon. People need to keep their eyes and ears peeled, and it will all become. And we're hoping to also maybe see some people in real life as well at some point this year, aren't we? We're always at Festival of Quilts, but again, there'll hopefully be other things where people might be able to come and where we can see people in real life, because we miss that a bit, don't we?
Yeah, I'm so excited to see you there. This has been so fun to talk all about all these happenings going on with Quiltfolk Magazine. But I don't want to forget about the QOF block of the month coming up. So let's dive into that a little more. What are you allowed to tell us about that one? We know it's about botanicals.
Our new block of the month is called Botanical Block of the Month, and we are involving not just QOF, but a few of the other free spirit designers. So QOF and Brandon are involved. Also, Penny Jeffries, who's one of their latest designers. She's just released her first collection with Free Spirit, which is absolutely beautiful. And Sarah Campbell, who is an iconic designer, really, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's been around for many years. She had a collaboration with her sister called Collier Campbell, which was massive in like the 70s, 60s even.
Done a lot of work for Liberty. She's got a big retrospective exhibition coming up at the London Museum of Fashion, London Textile and Fashion Museum, which is starting at the end of March. And she does incredible hand painting on fabrics as well as part of her creative practice, but kind of a lifetime in the design institutions here in Britain, including Liberty as well. So she's going to be part of it as well. So lots of different techniques. We're going to get out and see some beautiful British countryside as well, aren't we?
Yeah. So all things botanical and how we incorporate that into your quilt making.
It's hard to explain our block of the month, but I just think the easiest way to say is that it's not like one that you'll ever have done before.
It's not just a pattern and we all make exactly the same pattern. And it's a bit like the adventures. There's more to it. We want to tell the stories still. We want to delve into different things, and be that books or Roderick's quilts, whatever it might be. So with this, we've got these amazing free spirit designers on board. We're going to be finding out their stories and what botanicals mean to them in their design processes and all kinds of things.
Yeah, there's Kay, he did an incredible book called Bold Blooms, which you can still buy, which has always been a staple on our studio shelf. It's how to deal with botanical fabrics and use them in quilts, but why flowers are endlessly inspirational for colour palette and everything, isn't it? So it'll be great to have his insights because of that, I think, as well.
Yeah, well, it sounds like such a fun way to run a block of the month. And it seems like the person who's signing up, the quilter who's taking it, will have a lot of freedom and they can do their own thing. And they also get to really enjoy all the stories, right? So that sounds like a lot of fun. So if you are interested in checking that out, go to quiltfolk.com. Or of course, you can follow them on their Instagram, which is very likely Quiltfolk. Am I right about that? Okay, so go to find Quiltfolk on Instagram. So now it's time for the lightning round robin. It's a series of rapid fire questions and it's super fun. Are you both ready?
Yeah.
No.
Okay,
so we'll just go with Kay first, Jenny second. I just randomly made that up. So sorry, Kay, putting you in the hot seat. But what is your favorite tool or notion?
Oh, my leather thimble.
Okay, Jenny.
Me nice wooden seam ripper, because it's so pretty. I don't feel as bad when I'm then unpicking something.
You might as well have something.
Takes the edge off.
So great. Might as well have something beautiful in your hand if you have to do that dirty job, right? Okay. How many UFOs do you have going on at once in your studio?
Too many? That number?
Okay, you're not bad at all. I have got 4 Jenni emergency boxes, which essentially mean things that require attention. They're probably not all quilty UFOs. Some of them are clothes, but I think I'm worse at that than you.
This requires attention. I'm going to shove it away. Okay. Kay, do you have any kind of annual creative escape?
No, not currently. We used to have a thing where we've been saying again since COVID, we have to get back to going away with our friends once a year because we were so good at it. And I don't know why it's got so hard. So at the moment, no, but yes, let's make it a plan.
Okay. How about you, Jenny? Same answer or?
No, I think Festival of Quilts, it fills our cup with joy because we see our people. We meet new people, we see quilts, we stroke fabric, we buy things. And it's the only thing we have like that really in the UK on that scale. Yeah. So
that's a very good point.
Yeah. We love it. We
do love it. We always leave.
Work. We're there for work, but it never feels like work.
No, it fills you up, doesn't it? When you leave, we've always, that was brilliant.
That's why we do this job.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite shows. And I'm so lucky and blessed to be able to do those tours each year because I get to go. It just fills my bucket so much. Okay, so I think we know the answer from Kay to this question. What motivates you to get out of the bed in the morning? Nothing?
I think I know that when I come to work, I'm always going to have a good time, no matter what it is. Like, I don't ever dread the day. So I know we laugh a lot. We still laugh a lot. 10 years down the line, it's our 10th year of being in business together. And that's what motivates me.
Oh, what a milestone. 10 years together in business. What gets you out of bed in the morning, Jenny?
I think being able to come up with an idea and then making it into a reality. I don't think I ever get bored of the magic of being able to do that.
Yeah, that is a good one. Okay, Kate. What is a skill you'd love to learn?
I've had a slight little go at weaving and I think I'd like to possibly tackle it more because I really wasn't very good at it. It was much harder than I thought it was going to be. So I'd like to probably have another go at that.
Okay. Jenny?
I've just bought a proper quilting frame and I've got a quilt loaded into it and my thimbles and I'm teaching myself the rocking stitch. I've been doing it since Betwixtmas and I've just graduated to a slightly smaller needle, but I'm by no means very good at it. So, but that's the goal and what I'm working on.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great goal. Have you become enmeshed in each other's personalities?
Yes.
Probably. Yes and no. Like we have, and we joke. Like over the years, we have had this kind of joke that we are Jenni Smith. Like Jenni said, because the business started off in her name, but it was always both of us. Like we would always kind of say, well, we are Jenni Smith. Like this.
But actually, I think what's nice is that also Kay's at the forefront now, like, and we do everything together.
Yeah.
But so we're probably not.
No, it's not.
We're not like each other, but we like each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Kay, do you have any favorite collections of any kind in your home?
Oh, yes. Well, one of my favorite collections is still my eraser collection, as you guys, we called them rubbers when we were here in the UK, but erasers that I had from the 1980s, and I've kept it since the 1980s in a box where I drew on the lid. And we've joked about this because when I brought it and showed Jenni, she's like, I had exactly the same ones. You know, you could get these novelty erasers that were different shapes and they smell amazing, and you'd go and spend your money on them. And I made the mistake once of thinking, oh, let my children look at these. And then they started playing them with them. And it was like, nope, they are going back in the box. They are not for playing with. And so I loved collecting things, but I just collected stamps when I was little, stickers, ribbons. I mean, I collected ribbons and I did nothing with them. I don't know why I was collecting ribbons, except they were beautiful. Yes, I like collecting things, and I still love my eraser collection.
Yeah, I remember as a child going to the little 5-cent machine and being so excited if I got an eraser in the little, you open the little ball and you get something special. But yeah, that's okay.
Smells. Oh, yes.
Yeah. How about you, Jenni? Any collections?
I think pin cushions are definitely something that I've got some of and I want more, and I like. So this shelf of curiosities is a mixture of things, but yes. Pin cushions.
Pin cushions, that's a good one. Okay, what is your proudest accomplishment, Kay?
I think that probably that we have kept going in business for 10 years now. So many businesses fail after a couple of years. Mm-hmm. We've done it. We've grown every year in that we've done new things. We've grown ourselves. We haven't fallen out, and we still really like each other. I think that I'm really proud of that.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Jenni? What are you proud of?
I think I'm proud, again, that as women and mums, that we have forged a career that's successful on our own terms. So maybe not in the traditional sense or always monetary, but that we're in charge of our own schedule. We can work on pick and choose projects that we want to do, but also, if the school holidays we want to be around or to take our kids off to university, or, that we own that and we're proud of it, I think, again. So it's part of the same thing that we've kept going in business, but I think we've always pivoted to make it something playing to our strengths, but what we enjoy. So it's work, but it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And it's on our terms. No one else is. We're steering that, and I think that's good.
Yeah, and getting that menopause thing out in the world. I think we were also really proud of hopefully opening up a conversation a little bit more, of giving people a bit of, their own way of dealing with that.
Yeah, or just feeling comfortable talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. This brings me back to a moment earlier in the podcast, Jenni, when you were talking about making your quilt for your first son, and you slightly mentioned, and then I had a couple more. And I think, when we're talking, it's a monumental thing that you guys have created this 10-year business with 5 children between the two of you. And I think it's so nice to see this great example, because so often we kind of minimize our role in the world, or it's minimized for us without us wanting it, that this raising children thing is like a full-time job times 3 or 5 or whatever, right? And you're still doing it. So you're such a great example.
And traveling with Quiltfolk, and, it's on paper, it's fun, and we've been to all these destinations, but that still requires a lot of dedication on in all kinds of ways to put systems in place to be able to go and to keep all the other things moving. And, it's not as easy as it looks always, is it? But we managed to do it.
Juggle.
Yeah, to juggle.
Yeah. Okay, so last question. Do you have any furry friends in the studio?
Well, yes, just occasionally. Sometimes my dog Willow comes to play. Unfortunately, Jenny's allergic to most animals. But Willow is cockapoo, so she doesn't shed hair. So as long as she doesn't lick Jenny, then we're okay. But she's a bit of an enthusiastic dog, so I have to just kind of slightly keep her to one side. Sometimes she comes and sits with us in the studio, doesn't she? And then comes for a walk with us on the moor. And
if not, we've just got everything Miffy, the rabbit, which isn't real, but like because we went to the Netherlands. And Kay's had an obsession with Miffy. We've got crocheted Miffys around. So it feels like a furry friend. It's just it's not a real one. It's my perfect pet, actually, because it doesn't make me sneeze.
Unlike when I did have a real life rabbit and he really made Jenny sneeze.
So you can have the dog in the studio occasionally, but no kisses, right?
No kisses, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for braving the lightning round, Robin. That was super fun. You both did an excellent job. So I've mentioned your website is coming soon, so we want people to go and look for that on Instagram and watch for that. Also, we want to mention the quiltfolk.com website where we can find all the things we've just talked about with Quiltfolk. But where's the best place for us to connect with you both on social media?
I think Instagram's probably the place where we hang out the most, isn't it?
And Facebook.
Yeah. And people can message us. We really do. We always reply to people, don't we? We're more than happy to hear from people. And yeah, we love those connections. So yeah, come chat with us.
So that's at Jenni and Kay Create. Is it creates or create? Create. Okay, so at Jenni and Kay Create on Instagram and Facebook. So now as we wrap up, you two, what do you each want people to take away most from our conversation today?
I think I'd actually go back to my quote in that no work is ever wasted. So like, even if you don't feel like you're on the track with where you want to be in the future, just keep going, keep trying things and give yourself the grace to do that experimentation and believe in yourself. I think quilters always underestimate their own creativity and how important putting themselves into what they make is.
Yeah, exactly that. I think I would want people to feel that they can have a go at something and it doesn't matter if it's perfect, doesn't matter if it's finished, if you have some fun doing it and you've given yourself a bit of time just to play and do what you want. That's what we want. People who come and do anything that we put out into the world, I would hope that they feel like they can just have a go and that they would never be judged or feel bad, that they just hopefully have a bit of fun and enjoy it.
Yeah. So it's more about the making and the experience than the end result, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, I love that. What a great way to end the podcast. Jenni and Kay, it has been such a pleasure to have you both on the show. Thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Oh, thank you for having us.
So that was my show with Jenni Smith and Kay Walsh. This pair of friends present a host of fun workshops together, and in their bio on the Quiltfolk website, they are compared to Frankie and Grace of the US sitcom. Kay is Grace and Jenni is Frankie. I love that they bring new and unexpected locations for us to visit, building that strong connection with their community. They have a wonderful together story to share if you are the program person at your guild. They love to do virtual lectures. They just did one for an Ontario event, and some of my friends were in the audience and they said it was wonderful. The feedback was so great. So reach out to them on their website to connect at their new website coming soon, and be sure to follow along on their socials at Jenni and Kay Create to hear their latest adventures as they're released to the world. So today I loved sharing the story of Jenni Smith and Kay Walsh with you. Just give me 30 seconds of your time. 2 things I want to say. The first thing is a huge thank you for listening and tuning into the show week after week. It means the world to me and my team, which consists of James, my podcast producer, DG, my virtual assistant, and Luna, my chocolate lab. This podcast really is a dream that started with the notion of surrounding myself with people who lift me up, but it has turned into so much more than that. we absolutely couldn't have imagined becoming an award-winning podcast. But secondly, we feel like we're only just getting started. And if you enjoy what we do here, please go to your favorite social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or even YouTube, and follow Quilter on Fire. It's one small thing you can do for free to support this show. And here's a promise I'm going to make to you. I'll do everything in my power to make this the best show I can, just for you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the Quilter on Fire podcast. Remember to rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. Your support helps me reach more quilters just like you, striving for that perfect quilty lifestyle. Click on those 5 stars and share what you loved most about today's episode. Don't forget to hit the follow button if you haven't already. With new episodes dropping weekly, you won't want to miss out on the inspiring stories and tips we have in store. Until next time, dream big and have fun in the studio with the Quilter on Fire.